Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Health Babes podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Becky Campbell with Dr. Crystal Hohn. Today, we have my friend Sarah Kleiner on. Sarah is a certified nutrition and quantum health coach. And this episode, it was really fun. It was really cool. There was a lot of takeaways here. So we talked all about leptin resistance, and a lot about the circadian rhythm. And we talked about, you see people with the different colored glasses, and we talked about why are they wearing those? What kind of glasses, should you be wearing? What color? What time of day? What time of day should you, be out walking in the sun, taking in sunlight, and why? So this was a great episode, lots of information, and we can't wait for you to listen. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you, Sarah. Sarah is my friend. We've been friends for a few years now, right?
Yeah.
I've been on her podcast. She has a really great podcast. And she's just awesome. She has a great Instagram. So we're super excited to talk to you today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been at least since 2020 that we've been talking and been friends, and you've come on and given some amazing information on histamine and thyroid on my show. And so it's super cool and such an honor to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's talk about what is your story? I know you have a story and how you got into all this. So why don't we'll start there. That's a really good place.
Yeah. Well, I guess I could fast forward to kind of like the 2019, 2020. I was teaching yoga basically full time, and that was like my job, and started having a lot of health problems. I was also 39, and so my doctor just kept saying, "Well, this is normal for 39, about to be 40, perimenopause. You're just, things just start to bother you, joint pain, gut issues." And so I had a friend of mine that said, I could do a bunch of labs on you and recommend a bunch of stuff, or you could try this diet called the carnivore diet and see if that would help straighten some stuff out for you. And I thought, that's literally insane. Also, I'm a yoga teacher, and I'm supposed to do like the vegetarian, vegan type of lifestyle. But I was so desperate at that point because I wasn't even able to do a lot of yoga because my joints were in so much pain, and my gut was just, I would get so bloated and have the worst indigestion. So I said, fine, I'll try it. So I started the carnivore diet in beginning of 2019, was only going to do it 30 days, and ended up going for 2 solid years.
Wow.
Because I felt so good at the end of that 30 days, and started my Instagram page as a joke. Like, I was just sitting in the yoga studio, like surrounded by all these vegan people, and I was back to my mat practicing pain-free because I had been doing carnivore for just a couple of weeks. And I'm going to start this page as a joke. And it kind of went a little bit viral, the carnivore yogi page. And I had quickly gained about 10,000 followers in just a few months. And then I was getting inquiries left and right from people all over the world of like, how do you do this? And so I went back and did some nutrition training and started helping coach people. Then fast forward to 2021, we decided at the end of 2020 we wanted to get pregnant, that we were in our 40s, and if we we're going to do it, it was kind of now or never. And so I had not really done a ton of lab testing to kind of see what my thyroid and what things looked like, and we got pregnant right away, but unfortunately we lost that baby. And then I was desperate to get pregnant again. And so I kind of started doing a bunch of lab testing and looking at things a little bit deeper. Ended up getting pregnant again and lost that one. And that's when I kind of just said, I don't know if what I'm doing diet wise, if this is helping me for optimal fertility.
Wow.
Yeah. And it turned out I did have low T3, which I see now with a lot of people that do carnivore and keto diets and fasting long term. I don't think that was the only contributing factor, but it was definitely a factor. And it's something a lot of people in the keto carnivore community kind of like gloss over and say, oh, it's like insulin sensitivity, but your thyroid is more sensitive. Regardless, I was at that point really invested in getting pregnant. So we decided to do IVF. And so I had already started the injections, was already like full on into it when I interviewed Dr. Jack Cruz on my podcast. And it's funny, if you look at my podcast, you can see that episode with Dr. Cruz, I had the blinds drawn and it was like kind of a darker room. And then from that point on in my kind of podcasting career, the window is always open or I'm outside. Like, so that conversation that I had with him was a profound, life-changing conversation. And, you know, I had talked to and picked the brains of everybody on my podcast, everybody in the keto, you know, the big gurus, about this fertility issue. And Dr. Cruz was like, have you tested your leptin levels? And I was like, what the heck is leptin? He said, this, I think, is part of the key to your fertility journey, is your leptin levels, along with getting your circadian health in order, along with letting your body become electron rich and understanding cellular hydration and deuterium and all these other topics. And so I went on to do 2 rounds of IVF, which failed, unfortunately. But at that same time, I had started implementing a lot of Dr. Cruz's principles in my life and really understanding circadian rhythms and really just diving deep into leptin and understanding everything I could about it. So that was, I guess, that summer. And then I really was crazy quantum circadian, did everything, cold plunging, red light therapy, sunrise, sunset, outdoors barefoot, all the things, and ended up going to my doctor that January just to get some baseline labs run. And she said, oh, your labs, I don't know if they look optimal enough for pregnancy, but I had already kind of decided, I'm like, my labs, I'm going to get pregnant this month and I'm not going to use IVF. And I ended up that month getting pregnant and having my son just last October. So
Sarah, it's funny because you did have a dark room before, and I never thought about that, but it was really dark.
It was dark. Yep.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I had a like ring light shining on me in a dark room. And now it's like, as if I can be outdoors and have natural light and just be outside as much as possible, that's my goal. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to dive into that, because we love how you talk about this. It's so cool. But congratulations on your son. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Thank you.
I was just like really remembering your old, everything was really dark. So that's such a good point. And now if you guys can't see her, she's outside.
Yeah.
She's doing this interview outside. So
I do all my interviews outside unless like there's construction going
where
on
you can hear it.
Yeah.
What state do you live in?
I live in Georgia. I'm in Atlanta.
Okay. We used to live
we went
there.
to school.
We loved it there.
Yeah, so it's pretty mild. But we want to get down to Florida eventually. That's the goal, to be underwater. But
everybody wants to go
That's
to Florida.
where I am.
Oh yeah,
I'm in Michigan, so I feel you on that.
Oh yeah.
But I want to get to Michigan in the summer because it's so hot here. Crystal and I were talking about that today.
Yeah.
So let's let you mention leptin. So for those that don't know what leptin is, what is leptin resistance? And let's just get into that.
Yeah. So leptin is really, it was a hormone that was discovered in 1994. So we're just really starting to learn more and more about it now. And doctors, I think, are starting to kind of pick up on the importance of it, but it's a master circadian hormone. And essentially it helps to regulate the thyroid, signal sex hormones, your immune system. I mean, it has an arm in so many systems in the body, but it's also a fertility hormone. It can help with hormone balancing, but essentially leptin is supposed to dock to the hypothalamus when you're sleeping at night and kind of give a report of, this is how much stored energy is on the body. So tomorrow, this should be your hunger levels and this should be your activity levels. So that's how it kind of regulates the thyroid and then all those other hormones. So when people become leptin resistant, typically they have some circadian issues as well. They're not getting good deep sleep. They don't have enough melatonin production. They may have cortisol issues as well, because that energy information exchange is not happening for people. And so when you can kind of look at your hormonal situation through the eyes of leptin, thyroid situation as well, you can create a lot of downstream change just by focusing on leptin. And your leptin levels can be too high. That's typically people who are overweight, or they can be too low as well. I actually had extra weight and had low leptin. And I see that a lot, again, with people who have done long-term low carb, keto, and carnivore diets. Not everybody, but that was, that's what what my situation was. And I've seen that with a lot of other people. So when I started kind of this protocol. Now, Dr. Cruz has a protocol called a leptin reset that he does. I tried to do it his way and I was like, this is not for women. So I modified it and tried to make it more for women, created my own leptin reset program, and ended up losing 30 pounds. Wasn't trying to lose weight because I was trying to get pregnant, but I lost 30 pounds really without trying because I influenced my leptin levels.
Was this before you got pregnant, you said, Sarah?
This was before. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you don't really want to be trying to lose weight when you're trying
right,
to.
Right.
But I did because I was working on things through that eye of leptin. And so, that's really how it was impactful for me. And not only did I lose the weight, but I also optimized my hormones and my fertility. I saw a lot of hormones that were super low. DHEA and testosterone in particular for me were low ones, and progesterone also, but I saw those go up into normal ranges. And not just for a woman who's in her 40s, but someone who's in their late 30s. It was a pretty amazing.
Yeah, we've seen high and low leptin with leptin resistance, and it's all about the brain signaling, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about a little bit about, you kind of mentioned how it works with other hormones. So thyroid hormones, adrenal hormones like cortisol, DHEA, all that stuff. Yeah. It's really important how, like, what a dance the whole hormone picture is, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
So let's talk about what influences this. Like, how are we getting leptin resistance? So what are some things like bad habits that people do that increase leptin resistance?
Well, I say number one, because everyone wants to go straight to diet. And I used to do that. I mean, I made my whole Instagram page about a diet, and that's how I got a lot of my followers. So diet is important, but the number one thing that people have a misalignment is circadian rhythm, your circadian health. Because again, that leptin has to dock to the hypothalamus when you're sleeping. So if your circadian health is off, right, that is not happening for most people, especially if your cortisol is too high. Cortisol opposes melatonin. So a lot of people have dysregulated cortisol. And one of the simplest things that you can do for cortisol is, number one, get morning light every day, get sunrise and UVA, because that is the natural signal for your body to produce the correct amount of cortisol. Happens when the light comes in through the retina to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is signaling the hypothalamus to turn off melatonin, turn on a natural production of cortisol. Then we get UVA light, we make pregnenolone, we make serotonin, we make dopamine, we make all these neurotransmitters and those downstream sex hormones off of that pregnenolone. And so and thyroid hormone as well. All those things are synthesized in UVA light. So most people aren't getting that morning light signal for that natural hormone synthesis to happen. And then blue light at night, that light coming in through your eyes again is going to tell your brain make cortisol. So a lot of people have their phone screens after dark, TVs, bright lights on in the house. So their body's still producing cortisol and you're blocking that melatonin production. So you might sleep, but you're not getting into those deeper states of sleep where you can actually get things like autophagy and apoptosis. All these things are super important for hormone balance and just your overall health as well.
Yeah. What do you think when people like wake up and jump right on the computer, right on their phone?
So when you look at the temperature of the sun in the morning, it's the kelvins, it's about 1600 kelvins, right? And so that's a natural signal for your body to, again, turn off melatonin, turn on that natural amount of cortisol. When you look at your computer or your phone screen, that's like 5,700, 6,000 kelvins. Yeah. And so you're essentially telling your brain it is noon and it's summer solstice. And our body makes, again, an cortisol and protective hormones to protect us in the presence of UVB, right? So UVB is the strong sunlight where we synthesize vitamin D. Our body is so smart. When we see sun in sequential order, sunrise and then UVA and then UVB comes next, But all the while, our body is creating hormones to protect us from UVB light. So there's a little natural protectant happening as well. So when you're seeing your computer or your phone screen first thing in the morning, your body is creating the hormonal production that it would need for this strong UVB sunlight. So it's a ton of cortisol. So you haven't even eaten anything, you hadn't had any coffee, you haven't done anything except view light to create a hormonal cascade that I think a lot of people have no idea that this is even happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And you see people wake up, grab their phone while they're laying in bed, they're scrolling. I cannot look at my phone for hours until after I wake up. And I still don't, I'm like, do the necessary things and I get off. Like I can't look at the phone much at all.
Yeah, I'm
Bothers
the
me.
same way. Yeah. And then think about the neurotransmitters as well. Like, so dopamine and serotonin, those are all synthesized in UVA light. When you're looking at your phone, especially like social media or the news, you're really creating artificial dopamine and issues with those neurotransmitters that are also going to affect how those work throughout your day, throughout your life, that can really affect your mental sharpness, your ability to get tasks done. I mean, just so many things that, you know, it's the light is super important, but that we also have to think about those neurotransmitters as well.
It's so true. Because if you think about it, this is probably why people are needing more and more instant gratification and like that quick dopamine hit, you know, with, you know, that's why when we do a reel, it's got to be like 7 seconds or we're going to lose you, you know, because people they're artificially kicking in that dopamine at a high level. Right.
Yep, absolutely.
So you talk about circadian rhythm, and we'll get into how ways we can optimize that and make that better for people, right? What other things impact leptin resistance?
So eating too often. I tell people that to eat a nice meal at breakfast with adequate protein. I mean, women at least 25, 30 grams of protein for breakfast with adequate fat to balance that out. Also, if you're not used to, if you have been eating a ton of carbs previously, maybe have a little, you know, fourth cup of blueberries or a little sweet potato at the end of your breakfast. I love people to do a lower carb breakfast because it's really helpful to stabilize the blood sugar. And I just read a study recently that said that breakfast, having a high protein breakfast with adequate fat and not a lot of carbs, actually sets up your blood sugar for the next 36 hours. And so it's super important that we get the signal from the light in the morning. But food is called a Zeitgeber. So it's a secondary timekeeper that can also reinforce that circadian rhythm as well as stabilize your blood sugar. And you're kind of eating with your cortisol as well. So you're not going to get this giant surge, which will set you up later in the day to be more hungry, more tired, have that afternoon slump. So many people are just so quick to go straight for the coffee. They go grab their cell phone and then they have the coffee. And they're like, why do I feel like crap?
Yeah.
You know?
And then work out on top of it.
And then fasted workout. All in
I would be dead.
Me too.
I would die.
Well, that's what I did to myself in my late 30s too. I mean, I was going to Ashtanga yoga every morning at 5 a.m. I would drink black coffee on the way there and do this intense yoga practice at 5 a.m. every day under blue light. And then I wonder why I felt like I was like dying after a few months and all my hormones were in the toilet and I couldn't lose weight and my gut was a mess. So it's like, it's all related, you know?
It is,
for sure.
And even with me noticing working on the computer more with patients and podcasts and social media with just marketing, it's insane. You really have to work at it in the world we live in now, or else everything, it's just a domino effect.
It is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So how do we reverse leptin resistance?
So number one, you got to start with the circadian health, the morning routine, which most people are like, that's dumb. I just want to do the food. Right. But it's really helpful and it will actually help to regulate your appetite because having the correct amounts of serotonin and dopamine actually has, and there's tons of scientific evidence to back this up, it will have an appetite regulating effect. So that morning sunlight will actually work with you to help your appetite, blood sugar levels, all of that stuff. So morning sunlight and then the breakfast, right? with adequate protein and fat. I suggest an animal protein. I don't really like, tofus or powders or shakes. Really good high quality animal protein for breakfast. And then, you want to get to a place, everyone's going to come to this from different points of view. I have a couple programs, my 21-day leptin reset. I talk about this because I get people from, pro-metabolic backgrounds, which is really popular right now. And they're just a total leptin resistant mess when they get to me. So I'm like, you can't go from pro-metabolic down to, spacing your meals out 4 to 5 hours immediately.
Slower process,
because you're going to crash out and feel bad. But with what I like people to do is eventually get to that place where they can go 4 to 5 hours in between meals and have their body be able to go, burn glucose for fuel, but also be able to kick into a little bit of ketosis. So I do tell people, insulin competes with leptin. So if you have elevated insulin, it's going to compete for that docking place in the hypothalamus. We have to get your insulin down as well, which lowering leptin will aid in that. So I do like people eating a lot of protein, a lot of fat. If you want to have carbs, I do like to keep them a little bit more on the low carb side and stay with seasonal and local carbs, and kind of have those at the end of your meal, to minimize that blood sugar spike. And then blocking blue light at night is super, super important in your evening routine. You have to getting to sleep, I think, before 10 o'clock is really important because your body can get into that deeper stage of sleep and you can really make sure that the leptin is docking to the hypothalamus. You're really getting into those deeper stages of sleep. So evening time is important as well, and not eating super close to bed, which I know a lot of people they're like, oh, I need a bedtime snack. If you need a bedtime snack, have some fat. Like I love people to have like a little, some butter with maybe some crunchy, delicious, like Celtic sea salt on top of it, something like that, right? Have something nice and fatty before bed that doesn't increase your insulin, because again, insulin's going to compete with leptin.
Right, exactly. And for those that are starting to think about working on the circadian rhythm, what does that look like for someone when they get up in the morning? Like, what do they need to be focusing on? Can they eat breakfast in front of a window? Should they go for a walk? And talk a little bit too about the different areas in which we live, right? Because that impacts everything too. So let's get into that.
Yeah. So, I didn't have my glasses out here. I usually have glasses like somewhere with me, my blue blockers. I keep the blue blockers beside the bed, especially in winter time, because I might be up before sunrise and I've got a baby right now. So I have the blue blockers on when he's up at night. But I tell people, if you're up before sunrise, pop on a pair of like orange or yellow blue blockers. The red ones are hard to walk around your house. You might hurt yourself with those. Don't wear red unless you can just be sitting somewhere just for safety purposes. But I always tell people, have a pair of blue blockers on your nightstand. And then go outside. You can't actually get the benefits of sunrise through glass. It has to be without glass. And so if you can only get 30 seconds to a minute to poke your head out the door, that's going to be enough. It's called quantum, because it's a small little dose that's going to yield a really large result. That's how I like to look at quantum physics, quantum biology. We do these really, really small things that are going to yield a big, big result. And so if you can just get a minute or so of sunrise, and that the D-Minder app is really helpful for people to download to know what time sunrise is. It's at a slightly different time every single day. It's at a slightly different place in the sky every single day, but it's a very like gradual thing. So wintertime, sun's up much later, summertime, it's much earlier. But once you get into this rhythm of like seeing a little bit of sunrise every single day, your body starts to just naturally wake up at that time, and it shifts throughout the year. Like I tend to sleep later in the winter and wake up earlier in the summer, and I'm blessed that I work from home so I can do that. But the D-Minder app will tell you exactly what time the sunrise happens, where you are in your latitude and your location. If you're up before that, again, I pop on the orange or the yellow blue blockers. There are actually some great scientific studies that show that just that alone will blunt that cortisol response if there are overhead lights or if you walk by TV or something. And then again, try to go outside and see sunrise, which is when the sun is between 0 and 10 degrees in the sky. That D-Minder app will tell you the angle that the sun is at when you open it as well.
Very cool.
And then you want to get UVA light too, because sunrise, that's when we turn off melatonin production, begin to slowly ramp up cortisol. And then UVA light, which comes next, which is when the sun is between 10 degrees and 30 degrees, is where we start to synthesize all those neurotransmitters, thyroid hormones, the sex hormones, all of that stuff begins to happen in UVA, which is when the sun is between 10 and 30. So if you're someone who takes a walk, if you can take a walk during UVA, that's such a powerful, powerful thing for your hormones. No sunglasses.
Right.
Because I'll be out walking and I'm like, oh, just take off your sunglasses, you know?
I know. Yeah.
And it can be a hard adjustment. I mean, my eyes are like gray colored. So when I was first doing this, my eyes would water.
Me too, Sarah.
Blue eyes. That's my husband. So me and him are always walking and he's like, you're not. I'm like, it's your blue eyes.
Yeah. But you'll eventually adjust. Yeah. And the more time that you can spend in sunrise, because that's when there's the most red light, and red, we all love red light panels. I love my red light panel, but you can get that natural red light. And that's at sunrise and sunset. That's when we have the most natural abundance of just red light. That's the most healing frequency. So if someone's like really sunlight sensitive, I'm like, you've got to try to be outside, expose as much of your skin and eyes to that red light as possible. Again, depending on the time of year, you may have to bundle up. And my good friend, Carrie Bennett, she's my partner, and we run some courses together. She lives in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And so people will always come to her. It's snowing where I am. It's freezing. I can't. And she's
bundle up, baby.
Yeah. She's out there every day. And she walks barefoot in the snow in the mornings too.
That's a strong woman.
Crystal, you got to up your game. And that's
all right. That's it. I'm going barefoot. Grounded in the snow, baby.
Yeah, that's what she does every day. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that, but
it hurts. Talk about ice plunge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love it. What about I know a lot of listeners are probably thinking, well, what if I have LASIK or I wear contacts? How can they really optimize working on their circadian rhythm with that, right?
I just don't let the LASIK be a deterrent. Just do it anyway. I've had a lot of clients that have LASIK. It's not really something you can just go undo, Yeah. So I still say go out and do it. If you have contacts, try to not wear them for that time period if you can help it. There's also a brand called Dailies, I believe, that doesn't block out as much of the beneficial light, but we can't, that's the reason why we can't get the benefits of sunrise and UVA through glass, is because glass, as well as contacts and glasses, are going to naturally block out a lot of the UVA rays, UVB rays definitely, and they block out some of the red and infrared as well. So you just don't get a natural view of all those healing layers of the sun. So we demonize UV light. Most of the studies done on UV light showing how damaging it is were done with narrow band UV lamps. So the sun hasn't been extensively studied for all of its spectrums. Now, you got to practice safe sun exposure. Definitely practice safe sun exposure, not a license to just go burn yourself to death. But the rays of the sun can be very healing, and they work in conjunction with one another.
That's why I was going to ask you your thoughts on sunscreen.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. What I recommend is using the D-Minder app. Number one, see sun in sequential order if you are going to expose your skin to UVB. So sunrise and UVA really get that signal on board and get it strong. Then when you are out in UVB, which is where we synthesize D, use the D-Minder app. You can put in your skin type, your Fitzpatrick skin type. It'll tell you, okay, you've been out here too long, go ahead, go inside, get an under shade, cover up. And the more that you kind of build up that solar callus, the longer you can stay out there. Now, I do wear a visor because you will still photo age your skin. Like I still wear a visor.
Brown spots,
Yeah, you can
those
still
things I paid to laser
things
off
that we just hate.
Right. Yeah, I did it my first year. I'm like, you know what? I think I need to be wearing this. So I wear a visor, I wear a hat, even though I don't wear a lot of sunscreen or any sunscreen really. If I'm like going to the beach, and I'm just going to be out a lot and I can't really be under a lot of shade, I will wear zinc oxide. If I'm not used to being out for that long, I definitely will wear zinc oxide so I don't burn myself, or I just try to cover up or go in the shade. But I don't usually wear a lot of sunscreen. I'm pretty fair skinned too. So don't be dumb about it. Build up a solar callus, have really strong circadian rhythms. And when the Dminder app says, get out of the sun, get out of the sun. Don't push it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at this app right now online. I've never heard of this before.
I know, either have I, which is so awesome. That's what I love about a podcast. You learn so much, even, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even being in this space and working with patients, it's awesome. So if you could give, listeners 3 takeaways to really reset their leptin, really help their circadian rhythm, what would you say?
I would say morning light, definitely sunrise and UVA. The protein and fat breakfast. Yep. Don't drink the coffee first. Have that within 30 minutes to an hour of sunrise, preferably more like 30 minutes, and block blue light at night. Those are the 3 things.
I have a question. What are the different colored glasses for? It's kind of confusing for a lot of people.
Yeah. So yellow, those are usually day lenses when you're on a computer, or if you have to be in an office where there's a lot of fluorescent lights and LEDs. When I go to Target or something, which I try not to do, I have to wear the yellow ones because I'm so light sensitive now. I'll get nauseous now.
Yes.
Me too, Sarah.
And all the scents in there. I'm like, between the lights and the scents, like I can't do it. It's too hard. It was just awful. But if I have to go, I'll wear the yellow. So yellow is day. Orange is more like evening. And so I was just saying, if you wake up before sunrise, I usually will wear like orange lenses around the house. Red is like right before you go to bed. I will usually switch to red, 30 minutes to an hour before bed, because red can really signal, let's start really making melatonin here. Some of the red ones, you have to be careful. Like if you are trying to walk around the house with red glasses on, you have to be careful because you can bump into stuff and a little dangerous. I fell down on the stairs one night with red ones on. I'm like, that's the last one. I was pregnant too. My husband's like,
oh my goodness.
He thinks I'm crazy. So he's like, take off those stupid glasses.
They are so funny, but they're essential,
Yeah. Now I can't, now I'm so sensitive. After sunset, I have to put on orange glasses. I just have to, or I don't feel well.
Meaning if you're looking at any type of light, like
any type,
any artificial lighting. Yeah.
We have special light bulbs in the house now that are 1600 Kelvin. And I've switched out a lot of the bulbs in the house for the 1600 Kelvin, especially in the bedrooms and bathrooms, because those are the areas that you're going to be in closer to sleeping time. And so in the nursery, there's 1600 Kelvins, in the bedrooms, and in the kitchen where we kind of hang out, there's more of the 1600 Kelvin bulbs.
Yes, that's good to know. Yeah, the any artificial light really bothers me too. And it's interesting because when I was pregnant, I could not look at my phone or any TV, nothing. I mean, not even for 3 seconds, or I would throw up.
Oh my
gosh. Immediately,
wow.
I would throw up. And then it went away. It was only when I was pregnant. And then a couple years ago, this was when I was married. So this was probably 5 or 6 years ago. My husband at the time changed out all of our lighting to LED. And and the TVs started getting more advanced, and I started getting it again, not pregnant. I wouldn't throw up, but I would get a headache. And I'm still very light sensitive to artificial lighting. It really bothers me. I'm not light sensitive at all to the sun. It's artificial lighting that really, even doing the podcast is hard. It's hard for me to look at the computer this long. It bothers me. I don't like it. But then the glasses bother me too.
I would get Iris software for your computer. That's what I have.
So
yeah.
What's that?
IRIS, Iris software. You can install it on your computer, and it basically takes the tone of the computer down to more of like an amber yellow.
Yeah.
You can play around with your how comfortable you are with that tone. But my laptop always has iris on, and if I'm on the computer, I'm either outside or I have a window open or door cracked, so I'm getting natural spectrum of light also. So I'm not just, or I'm wearing the blue blockers, the yellow ones.
The yellow ones. Okay.
Yeah,
I've tried the red because I've read that the red ones for headaches, but it doesn't.
You got to be careful with red. You don't ever want to wear red during the day because you don't want to be telling your body to make melatonin during the day. That's the reason why sunglasses are so bad too, because you can start making melatonin when you're wearing sunglasses, and that can really, you can mess up your hormones just by putting on sunglasses during the day, which when I tell people that, they're like, no. I'm like, yes, you don't want to be making melatonin during the day at all.
True. I feel tired when I wear sunglasses. I don't like it. I always pull them back up because it's so bright here. You know, I'm in Florida, but in the car, I'm like on, off because I don't like the way they feel.
Yeah. And you got to protect your eyes too. I had a quantum ophthalmologist eye surgeon on, and I was like, are there times where it's important to wear sunglasses? And he said, if I'm on the water, if I'm on a boat, I'll wear them to protect my eyes, but I take breaks from them also, try to kind of take them on and off, try to keep a hat on most of the time. But if it's like, I just have nowhere else to look and I'm on a boat on the water and there's all this light coming at me, I will. Or if I'm skiing, same thing with the snow. So I tell people, like, if you're just in a place where you have to protect your eyes, and they also have these like gray glasses too, that are not sunglasses, but so they won't create that melatonin issue. But they have glasses like that where you can protect your eyes in those types of situations. Cause anytime I do a sunglasses post, I get blasted by, people who are, you're going to get corneas and ruined. I'm like, well,
okay. Just trying to help.
Exactly.
What company do you like for these glasses?
I have a couple companies that I like. Raw Optics, and my code there is Sarah, with an H. And Matt Maruka is awesome. He'd be a fun person to have on your podcast. If
Matt
you ever
Maruka?
If you ever want me to connect you with him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then Viva Rays is another awesome brand. The owner, and my code there is Yogi. Rudy is awesome, is also another amazing person to talk to about light. And he has a 3-in-1 system where you can just have like a base layer, and then they have like a magnetic orange layer and a magnetic red layer that you can pop on. So those are really fun too.
Talk about sexy, man.
Yeah, both of those are like super awesome brands. I work with both of them, and the owners of both companies are just amazing people who both of them had their life profoundly changed by light. Rudy struggled with ADHD as a child and ADD, and was, kind of flunked out of school and hyperactive all the time, and learned about circadian rhythms and kind of Dr. Cruz's protocols, and was able to completely turn his life around. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Can you run over one last time with like a listener that's thinking, okay, I get up at 5 a.m. It's dark. What should I be putting, what glasses should I be wearing when the sun rises? What should I be doing? Just so that they can take some actionable steps too and not get overwhelmed.
Absolutely. So if you wake up at 5 and you just have to be up to do things, try to keep it low key. Put on the orange glasses. I always keep a pair beside my nightstand. So put those on because it will help with that cortisol rise to not shoot you way up. Keep it low key. If you're hungry, eat. I tell people the only reason you shouldn't eat before sunrise is if you're awake and you don't want to be awake, because it'll be a signal for your body to continue to wake up at that same time every day if you go ahead and eat. But if you're hungry, go ahead and have that good protein and fat breakfast. And then when it is sunrise, try to go outside when the sun, again, is between 0 and 10 degrees. The D-Minder app will let you know when that is. Try to spend, if you can, 2 to 5 minutes during that time. If you only have 30 seconds to just literally poke your head out the door, do that. Just do what you can. And also know that if it's raining, if it's cloudy, if you're in a city and there's buildings, if you're in a valley and there's mountains, if there's trees, it does not matter, because the beneficial rays, the red infrared, can break through the clouds so that that signal is still going to reach the retina, and reach your brain to begin that hormone production, right? And then again at UVA time, which is when the sun is between 10 and 30 degrees, you want to try to be out there. I try to spend a little longer on UVA if I can, because that's really when a lot of magic happens with hormone synthesis. But that's another time, 2 to 5 minutes. If that's all you have, then that's all you have. If you're driving during those times, crack your window open or open your sunroof, because you can get, light is really smart and it can travel. So
Nice.
you can be in the house and crack a window open, and that light signal can travel through an open window. It can travel through the window in your car. It can travel through the sunroof. If you happen to be at work at that time, take a light break. Everyone gets to take, smoke breaks. So try to take a light break. And that's really morning optimal, getting those light signals. It doesn't require you spending your entire morning outside. If you can, awesome. If you can, that's a huge upgrade, but not everyone has that luxury.
Yeah, we work with a lot of people, and it's who are in a room with no windows, a moldy building with no windows, and they're just it's so hard. And one of the first things we say is you need to get outside. Every time you get a chance to take a break, please go outside, get some sun and all that. And it does help. And they do notice, and it helps with the way they feel mentally too, as far as like emotionally even. Because that's depressing, being in a room with no windows and not seeing any light all day. It can really, wreak havoc on your body in so many ways. So,
I mean, those neurotransmitters are synthesized in UVA light. So, and the sun really does help with the serotonin production. So it is really, and dopamine as well. It's really important that we get the natural sunlight. And red light therapy can be helpful for those things as well. I always tell people it's not a supplement. It's not a substitute for morning sunlight, but it can be a nice supplement. So when we in Atlanta, you guys have both lived here before, how it can be, February, the winter months, we can just have days and days and days of gray, just like you there in Michigan. So like today it was just it's cloudy, overcast. Came outside, got my morning light signals, and then sat in front of my red light panel for just 10 minutes or so, because that can also help with the winter blues, and it does so many wonderful things for your mitochondria as well.
What do you think of those sun lamps? Like patients? No. Yeah.
The Sperity vitamin D lamps. You just have to be careful with those, because, and I used to love mine, and I have one, but it's been getting dust this year. Because I have a baby, so I haven't had time to use it. But you have to be really careful with those, because like I mentioned in the beginning, the studies that have really been done on UV light and how it damages the body have been done with lights similar to those sun lamps. The narrow band UV lights, those are the ones that all the research and studies have been done on, how UV causes cancer and all that. So I'm like, if you're going to use one of those, you have to have strong circadian rhythms, and use it at a time when we would circadian wise have UVB light, so middle of the day, and use it with a red light panel as well, because red light, the red and infrared light, they provide like a sunscreen for the body. So it gives a protective element with the panel, with the sun lamp. And I used it when I was pregnant to keep my vitamin D levels up during the winter, and it worked great. But I haven't had time to use it this year, and I still actually have tan lines from October, which is insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so great, Sarah. We love you, and we just love, because it's, this is different. A lot of people aren't talking about that. So where can people find you to learn more?
Yeah, my Instagram is Sarah Kleiner Wellness. And then my website, sarahkleinerwellness.com. It'll kind of take you to all my courses, and I have a podcast called the Evolving Wellness Podcast and a YouTube channel, but all that is like linked in my Instagram profile as well. So if they just want to go somewhere central.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening. Have a good day. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. And if you love this episode, please leave a review. It only takes a couple minutes. And you can find out more about us on drbeckycampbell.com. And you can follow us over at Instagram on @HealthBabesPodcast, @Dr. Becky Campbell, and @Dr. Crystal Hohn. Have an amazing day.